This has Bears fans puzzled as we enter week one. We are just hours away from the first game, Monday Night Football against the Minnesota Vikings. What does this report and recent release mean for the team on their first game? Welcome to Bears Digest, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Dylan Guinzy. Thank you for joining me once again. If you are not subscribed already, please do so. It looks like 67.5% of you have not done so, so please do that too. Get those continued news, updates, rumors, everything in between. So, ladies and gentlemen, we do have some breaking news on the injury report front, and it is not good news at all. As we have talked about previously, going into the final injury report of the week, we had TJ Edwards, who's looking like he is out for the entire game, or week one, rather, and Jaylon Johnson, who is questionable. Looks like it's probably going to be a game-time decision, and honestly, I'd probably favor that to him being on a snap count if he does play. But we do have a new addition to the injury report, and that is not good. So let's hop right into that one. Kyler Gordon has been added to the injury report today, Sunday, here right before the first slate of NFL games kicks off for the year, on Sunday at least. Obviously, we had the two to start the week. But Kyler Gordon was just added to the injury report with a hamstring injury. Ladies and gentlemen, if you do not know anything about hamstring injuries or groin injuries, like what TJ Edwards is dealing with, these things nag you, and they don't go away. I hope to the Lord that this is just precautionary for Kyler Gordon, and they had to add him to the injury report since he was getting some, attention from the medical or team staff on that, or the training staff, and this isn't a huge issue. But if we are missing Kyler Gordon and not a full-strength Jaylon Johnson and TJ Edwards, I don't see how there's any way that this defense is successful on Monday Night Football. And that's just kind of going, odds honest, realistic view of this. I don't think they're going to have any success being able to stop the run, being able to generate pressure from the nickel position, being able to cover the tight end, being able to cover Justin Jefferson. I think this would be a massive, massive, massive issue going into week one. So let me know down below what you guys think here as we enter Monday and Monday Night Football. What you guys think here is going to happen with the injury report. Who do you think plays? Who do you think doesn't play? Does this impact the game? I always like hearing from you guys and what you guys think on that front. So Kyler Gordon, he is one of the best nickel corners in the league. If he is not able to play on Monday Night Football, this is a massive, massive loss for the team. Now, if you guys didn't remember, Kyler Gordon did get extended here in April back by the NFL draft, or around that time. They signed him to a 3-year, $40 million contract extension with $31.25 million guaranteed, making him the highest paid slot cornerback in the NFL and tying him to the team through the 2028 season. The extension reflects Gordon's value to the team, especially in the nickel role, and his status as general manager Ryan Poles' first draft pick. And guys, as we have talked about here previously, Dennis Allen has raved about Kyler Gordon more than any other player on this Bears defense. So losing your highest paid nickel corner in the game, one of the best nickel corners in the game, for a team that's already depleted on the defensive side of the ball, that is going to be a massive, massive loss. So we're going to stay up to date and what's happening with that going into tomorrow's game. But losing Kyler was just going to make J.J. McCarthy's first NFL start that much easier. In already a defense that, probably not everybody's too confident with in Chicago there. And then you add the injuries on top of it. It's going to be a lot of issues that we have to overcome, or it might have to be a shootout, something like that, to win that ball game on Monday night. Just popping in here to Kyler Gordon just to give some recent history and last year's stats. He played 15 games last year. A half sack, 1 forced fumble, 3 recovered fumbles, 4 tackles for loss, 48 solo tackles, nothing in the interceptions category last year, but he does play a lot better than what those numbers on paper look, of course, and that is just the sign of it. If you look at his PFF grades and all the advanced analytics and everything like that, he is obviously one of the best nickel corners in the game. So just kind of covering Kyler Gordon here, guys. This is something that when it comes up on a Sunday, especially the day before the game, and he wasn't on the injury report at all, that means he did tweak something. kind of out of nowhere. Either that was practice or him waking up today and it was just very tight from yesterday's last practice. And when that's the case, you're usually going to use precaution with these guys, especially going into the first week of the season. It's not like it's the last week of the season or you're fighting for a playoff bid or you're going into a bye week the next week after. This is week one. So as you know, unfortunate it is to say, they're usually going to take the more cautious approach with your players in week one. This is why it tells me that obviously TJ Edwards is going to be out for this game. There's really no getting around that. But Jaylon Johnson and Kyler Gordon, this makes me think that they're going to have that precautionary approach with them too, because you don't want them to forcefully go out there and play when maybe they're not ready to play. And then, something happens and this injury is worse. Somebody has to go on IR, or now they're missing next week's game against Detroit in another division matchup and things like that. So you don't want these two boil over and keep spilling onto each other in terms of injuries. This is something that we worried about going into training camp when the team has been very, very physical and a lot of things have been stated where they want to be very aggressive on every play. They want to have very hard-hitting practices, and that is very good. But the one thing that you want to go into week one is healthy. And when you do that and you're practicing that hard a lot, it can better your team, but you can also have the risks like you see here with the injuries. And also what we saw in Detroit last year with their injuries, because they had this similar style of play and this, similar sort of practice setup under Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson, of course. So that kind of trend leads you to have some negatives as well, although you're probably going to see a more aggressive style of play on the field. So hope and pray that Kyler Gordon can get out there and can play. We need him and Jaylon Johnson, obviously, but missing both of them would be a tragedy for this team, and it would be tough to overcome, in my opinion, all things considered there in week one. Another thing here, the last thing I want to touch on, just related to the game here, obviously, we are playing the Minnesota Vikings, and something just came out on their injury report, and that is Harrison Smith. Been dealing with a personal matter in terms of a personal medical issue here recently, and he has been ruled out. He's not even traveling with the team tomorrow. So obviously we have some downsides on defense and players missing, things like that, depleted on that side of the ball. But losing Harrison Smith for the Vikings is also a big loss for them too. He's been the heart and soul of their defense and that backfield there in the secondary. Always been a lockdown safety, been a great player, a great vet, and a good leader for that team. So not having him out there is going to hurt them as well. Hope all is well with Harrison. I've heard some things, that nobody really knows what that is or what he's dealing with. So obviously, you never want to hope injuries or, hope anything bad happens to players, nothing like that. So they won't see him out there tomorrow night. The guy in place of him did just get a contract extension in the offseason. So what that tells you is the safety behind them, they are pretty comfortable with him filling in and probably replacing Smith at some point when he is ready to retire here soon, because he's kind of on that back half of his career as well. So no Harrison Smith for the Vikings, but it's also not looking good for the Bears defense. It might look like the offense might need to control this game, run the clock, make it look boring, win the time of possession, things like that, maybe get a timely turnover here and there. But overall, you can't really expect the defense to look great or be consistently good tomorrow night if the main three players of your defense, arguably your top three players on your defense, are out for the game. So that's going to be a problem. We're going to stay up to date on that. Obviously, regardless, we're very excited for week one, and we are going up against Minnesota, divisional opponent on ESPN on Monday Night Football. So we'll be here with the reactions and everything to come from that game. And as always, bear down.